Welcome to the Rocky and Micey Show, everyone. As you might notice, we have a new look to the podcast thanks to our producer, Morty. Thank you very much for working tirelessly in creating said graphics. So it really is, it gives a whole new look, a whole new pizzazz to the podcast. So thank you so much for that. Yeah, Juice Stool. We are, of course, always presented by Juice Stool, who's coming out with merch very soon. We will keep you posted on that. It's going to be dope. So thank you for joining us. Remember to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple, and subscribe to our YouTube page. Of course, we're continuing to release content, even short clips, not just long podcasts. I mean, they're not really that long, right? 15, 20 minutes. I think that should be able to keep your attention for long enough. And if you want, put it on 1.5 speed. I sound very good on 1.5 speed. So put it on double speed if you need. That's a little too fast. I don't know if I speak quickly in general, but either way, double speed is a little quick, but 1.5 is a good way to get it done. So let's get started. Remember to follow us on Twitter and Instagram. And we're going to, of course, roll on with the divisional previews. And we're onto the NFC side of things. And interestingly enough, we're just discussing that 7 of 8 remaining teams in the playoffs have been featured in the last 2 years in the championship round. So no new faces really, except for Joe Burrow. No new faces here in divisional round weekend. And we could easily be seeing a lot of matchups, a lot of rematches next weekend, even in the Super Bowl potentially, which is quite crazy to think about. But today we're going to be discussing Packers, Niners. A lot of people are seeing an upset here, Yehuda, right? I mean, it's one of those interesting phenomena because last week we said that even though the Cowboys were the favorites, a lot of people were jumping on the Niners train, and it panned out for them. They really outplayed the Cowboys in every facet of the game. Jimmy G just did a lot of things to bring the Cowboys back into that game. But at the end of the day, the Niners outplayed them. There's no question from beginning to end on the defensive side and offensive side of the ball. Maybe not on special teams, right? Cowboys had a couple special teams things that went their way. But overall, it was not really an upset. But this week, it would be quite a big upset if the Niners pulled it off. Because honestly, we're talking about Aaron Rodgers. We're talking about one of the best rosters he's had in a bunch of years. And yes, he struggled in the playoffs. He struggled to get over that hump, right? Even though he does generally win in divisional round, he does not win. He hasn't been winning those championship games to propel him to the Super Bowl. Will this year be different? We'll have to wait and see. But the question is, Yehuda, do you think the Niners can play the upset role again?
Yeah, one of those championship rounds you were talking about was against the Niners in 2019, and right. that was a different team. Like it's a similarly constructed team with the defense and the run game, but that team was I think even more heavily dependent on the run game. Didn't have Deebo Samuel as this do-it-all player, and the defense was a lot more ferocious. This year, the defense is solid. I think it's a little underrated actually in how good they played, but they also have some serious issues, with their corners. They've been missing a bunch of corners with injury, with COVID. So they can be a little susceptible to the pass. And as we know, Aaron Rodgers is obviously playing as one of the top 3, top 2, maybe even top 1 quarterback in the game right now. And that's how they're going to beat the Niners. But speaking of upsets though, I mean, I could see it. Listen, the Niners have the formula for it: a good defense, a good run game, pass rush with 4 guys. A pass rush where they don't need to really blitz that much to get to Rodgers to pressure him. And something interesting that I just saw was that when Rodgers is under pressure, when Rodgers is under pressure, he
guest star.
Yeah, he has a 69-point difference from his pass rating when he is not under pressure at 122 to versus being under pressure at 53.9. His pass rating drops nearly 70 points, which is like the highest that any quarterback has seen under pressure this season. So he's not usually under pressure. The Packers line is very good. They're top 5 in pass block win rate, but the 49ers are top 5 in pass rush win rate, meaning they can get home with 4 guys. Like they can put some pressure on Rodgers, but again, the Packers are getting Bakhtiari back and they're getting their center back, their rookie center, and those guys were eased in. So you could say that was them shaking off the rust in the game against the Lions. Now they've had a whole week off, so it's going to be a closer game than I think people expect. But there definitely is potential for the upset. But Packers still have Aaron Rodgers, so he's always the X factor, the difference maker.
Yeah. Sticking with the defensive side of things for the Niners, it's incredible what they did. Very impressive against that Cowboys offensive line. I mentioned last week the Cowboys. I think I mentioned it in the review podcast actually that the Cowboys were rated PFF's #1 offensive line unit. And what they did without Nick Bosa for a good portion of that game, 12 different players on the Niners front seven recorded a pressure, and 9 players had multiple pressures. To do that, to destroy that offensive line without, I mean, Key and Armstead have been impressive parts of that front seven as well, even without Bosa. So they're able to compensate for that. And yeah, it's going to be tough. Aaron Rodgers is not the same player when he's under pressure, obviously. But, now having A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones back there, like, to sort of dump it on, and A.J. Dillon's just been a great receiving weapon out of the backfield for them. 2 of the 5 best running backs actually in the league, according to PFF. Like that's going to be key for him to get the ball out quickly. These older veteran quarterbacks know how to get the ball out quickly. Well, obviously, we know Brady's master at that, and Rodgers can also get the ball out quickly. They rely more on the passing game, right? No team relies on the receiver more than the Packers do on Devontae Adams. It's a deep passing game. Devontae Adams get open all facets of the field, though, and when you have the ability to dump it off to playmakers like Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, I think they can compensate for that. But it's certainly a concern, right? We know that the Niners can confuse opposing offenses. The question is, even though they can put pressure on Aaron Rodgers, like if he can get the ball down the field, the secondary is not great. Can they do enough of that confusion? This is not Dak Prescott we're talking about. This is Aaron freaking Rodgers, right? I mean, it's going to be a lot more difficult to confuse him. He's seen it all than a guy like Dak Prescott, who has struggled down the stretch this season as it is going into that game against the Niners. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I don't see any confusion with Aaron Rodgers. Like you said, like he's Aaron Rodgers. He's thrown 4 picks all year. Week 1, he threw 2 picks against the Saints, and since then he's only thrown 2 interceptions all season. So he's been absolutely insane. And he's been playing so well. So I don't think there's any way to confuse him. But the way to beat him is with that run game, and their run offense is like so dynamic. They find these running backs out of nowhere, the 6th rounders. Like we thought Trey Sermon was going to be the guy, third round pick with the 49ers, but then this guy Elijah Mitchell comes out of nowhere. Even after Raheem Mostert goes down, the Niners still have an awesome run game. And now they're using a wide receiver. They're using Deebo Samuel, who is absolutely electric, unreal offensive weapon, who he said, someone asks me, what position I play wide back because he's a running back. So he said, I'm a wide back. So he plays in the slot. He plays as a running back. He plays outside. Like he can confuse the Packers defense. We want to talk about confusion. Deebo Samuel can do that. And then you also have Kittle over the middle. But the Niners top 7 run game, and yards per game, and just keeping Rodgers off the field, is the best defense against him at this point because he's so good. So can we see the offense stave off Rodgers enough and the defense make just enough plays to keep him honest? I think it all comes down, even after me saying all this with the Deebo and the run game and everything, it all comes down to Jimmy Garoppolo. Like he's playing hurt. We see his thumb injury and how it affects him. We saw that against the Titans and how poorly he was throwing the ball after he smacked his hand on the helmet and then was throwing interceptions and just let the Titans get back in the game. And then we saw it against the Cowboys that they said he now suffered a shoulder injury a little bit and it was affecting his throws, and he made that poor decision that, kind of let the Cowboys get back into the game. So is he going to be able to make enough plays to counteract this Packers defense? Because I don't know how much they're going to respect him, and they may try to load the box a little more, and they've seen him before, like we saw in 2019, right? The Niners beat the Packers. How they ran the ball 40 times. Jimmy G literally threw 8 passes. Like he had a Mac Jones game against the Bills. And that's what they did, is that Kyle Shanahan was hiding him and rode the defensive run game to a Super Bowl. So this year, like it's the defense is not as good. Bosa's injured. They have injuries on the secondary. They're not going to be able to play as well as they did in 2019. Can Jimmy G now make some plays to stay neck and neck with Rodgers this game?
It's not even a question of making plays. Can he just not make the negative plays, which he's done so many times this year? No, really, that's what he almost gave that game away against the Cowboys last week. Like those 3 critical mistakes in the fourth quarter. The interception, it was a bad interception. He just missed a wide open Brandon Ayuk, who absolutely torched Trevon Diggs down the field. Just missed him, airmailed the ball. And number 3, that 4th and inches was completely his fault. He did not wait for Trent Williams to set, and therefore they got called for the false start. Really should have been an illegal formation. But But either way, or whatever the penalty was there, but either way, it was completely on him. The quarterback has to give enough time. He's, Trent Williams is a veteran offensive lineman, the highest graded player in the league this year, according to PFF. Like, he does not make those mental mistakes too often, especially in a critical situation like that. Jimmy G does. And what I'm looking at is that the Packers just don't make Jimmy G beat you. It's very simple. Like you said, 8 passes in that victory they had, right? That's Kyle Shanahan's recipe. That's his most ideal situation. Let's run the ball effectively, get the ball to top playmakers on short slant routes, short screen passes. Deebo Samuel's involved in the offense on jet sweeps and runs up the middle. In any which way, let's get our playmakers involved and not put the game in Jimmy G's hands. So if the Packers can do just that, they are a bad matchup for everyone. I agree. But if the Packers can do just that and just, take away the running game. Like, I never say this, but for the Niners, the way they run their offense, just take away the running game and rush the passer. Jimmy G is not a good passer under pressure. 15 turnover worthy plays this year under pressure. That's an awful number. He ill-advised throws, putting the ball in harm's way left and right when he's under pressure. And the first game between these two teams, the Packers did that, and he had 3 turnover worthy plays. But at the same time, the Niners were able to crawl back into the game and come back from a 17-point deficit, take the lead. If it wasn't for some Rodgers magic with less than a minute left, they would have won that game. So the Niners are a bad matchup for anyone. But if there's any recipe for success here, if there's the best recipe for success here, I think for the Packers is to stack the box. Don't make Jimmy G too much. It's not a good idea. It really isn't. Like, as much as you want to say Jimmy G can make some plays, not really. I mean, he doesn't really have big playability in him. He just doesn't. He's solid at doing solid things that the coach asks of you throughout a football game. But if you ask him to do too much, he's going to mess it up. And don't do that if you're the Niners. And if you're the Packers, make him do that. You know what I'm saying? Force him into those situations. That's why if the Packers go up early, I see it hard for the Niners to come back in this game.
Yes, I agree. And that's, like you said about stacking the box, that is definitely what the Packers are going to have to do. They have actually, a bottom tier run defense. And we all saw on Mozi Christmas, the Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, or maybe it was D'Ernest Johnson, but definitely I remember Nick Chubb was ripping off 9-10 yard rushes like it was nothing against the Packers. And even though Baker threw 4 picks, like, they were still in that game because the Packers run defense was just atrocious. So that's why I really thought this was the worst possible matchup for the Packers in the divisional round. Like you said, they usually win the divisional matchup and then end up losing in the NFC Championship, but they usually win a game. But for this game, the run game of the 49ers is going to be tough for them to stop. Like, they will definitely have to stack the box against this tough running defense. And even when they stack the box, they still have issues. So if Jimmy G wasn't hurt, and if he, I don't know, if Shanahan trusted him a little more, like, they would have the Packers have some serious problems on their hands, because this is how you beat Aaron Rodgers. It's the perfect formula. You win with 4 guys on pass rush, and then you just keep them off the field with the running game. So like you said, like, I don't necessarily trust him to not make the big mistake, and neither does Shanahan. So the Niners will probably lose this game, but as I keep saying, I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think. I don't think the Packers are as good as people think. They've been incredibly efficient this year, and Rodgers has been insanely efficient. But their defense, as usual, is just a hole in the back. And they are getting Zadarius Smith and Jair Alexander, which is going to really help. But
Jair Alexander's coming back this game?
Yeah, I mean, he's questionable, but
that's huge. He's their best corner. That's huge.
Probably not going to play, but I would say Jair could hang with Deebo, but I don't really know if he can. Like, Deebo plays, or I don't know if he would necessarily line up with him, at running back or in the slot. So Kyle Shanahan is the best schemer, and he is going to get Deebo in a position where he is not matched up with Jair. Obviously he's going to try to find the best matchup. So I don't know if he would hang with him. He would probably just stay on the outside with like Ayuk and Jennings and whatnot. But he can't. He's not a guy who would run with Kittle, and we could see Kittle over the middle for Jimmy G, some easy throws over the middle, like you said previously. They like looking over the middle. It's the easiest place to throw the ball, and they're going to be able to complete some passes on this defense. And we just got to see, like, can he not make the big mistake, and can they get their playmakers out in space enough to pull off this crazy upset? Not
Yeah, it's a
crazy,
good point, actually.
but
It
big.
would be pretty crazy. I mean, nobody really sees it coming, although we're speculating about it.
Yeah.
But right, it's interesting because the player for the Packers who's lined up in the slot for them most of the year is Shannon Sullivan, and he's been awful. So Rasul Douglas has been a great cornerback filling in for Alexander the entire season. So that's not necessarily someone you want to attack. And he's created a lot of turnovers. So not necessarily someone you want to attack down the field. It's been solid all year. And of course, they have great safeties back there. So if you do attack the slot, maybe you line Debo up in the slot. Kittle's going to be in the slot. I mean, they'll probably put a safety on him and probably a little help because he's really their big weapon. They didn't get involved last week. The Niners didn't. Like Kittle was not really involved last week. So yeah, that's probably the best. I agree. The best recipe for success: middle of the field, attack the middle, don't attack the sidelines too much. And but again, that might be the recipe for success, but the Packers are going to take away the strength, right? Because the Niners do a lot of things, a lot of different things to opposing defenses, but they're not really great at anything, right?
Yeah.
The only thing they're great at is George Kittle after the catch. So really, if you take away their strengths, it's going to be difficult for them to adjust. I really think so, and I think the Packers are going to do that. Listen, man, Rodgers somehow always seems to struggle in these playoff games, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
But this game, I'm just going to lay it down. I'm going to say the Packers are going to take this one. I don't see the Niners being able to match up and being able to confuse the Packers as much as they did the Cowboys last week. So I'm going with the Packers in this game. I'm going to give a score prediction too. Maestro would be proud of me. Let's go 27-17 Packers.
Ooh, so the under. A heavy under.
Is that the under? What's the over under for this game? You know what it is?
For this game, the over under is 47.5.
47. So that would be 30,
43.
43. Okay. So
44. That's 44 points. So I'm just under. Right. I didn't even know that.
So I've seen the Niners have success in the postseason against the Packers, and I've seen it even in Santa Clara and in Green Bay. So the this notion that Green Bay is impossible to play and it's such a good home field advantage, that was back in the day, and I keep mentioning this. Like after 2002, 2003, I think they're 7-6 in the playoffs. Like obviously, they're always in the playoffs. They're always playing, and they're usually very good. But they not consistently losing, but they will lose, and they will lose in NFC Championship games at home. They will lose the divisional round. We saw them lose 15-1 to the Giants when that was probably Rodgers' best team. I mean, defense was really schwach, but I don't know if the Niners can do enough though. So I would say again, this is going to be much closer than people think. And I think I saw a 6-point line. I think that's really big. I think it's going to be a 2-3 point game. I don't have a 10-point game like you have, Rocky. I have probably like 27-24. So I think it's going to be really close, but I think the Packers should be able to keep their fans' hopes alive and keep the momentum going for one more week before they disappoint them again this year. But that's a preview for next week.
That's possible. That I'm not necessarily going to disagree with you yet on. But Morty, who you got for this game?
Like you just said, I think it's going to be a very close game, like 2-3 score game. It's going to come down to a field goal or someone's going to go for a 2-point conversion. But I'm going to have to take the Packers, just give them the edge in this. Also, San Francisco playing in the cold. I'm not sure what the numbers are on that and prep enough, but I think that might help them. But like you guys said, it's basically shutting down the San Francisco's run game. So I think two good bets is the under on Jimmy's throwing yards.
Yeah.
And
what's that?
Sorry?
What's the under? What's the over under?
Oh, the over under for 1 second. I'll pull it up.
So we got over under on Jimmy. Yeah, I'm probably gonna go under. I don't even know what the number
under 236.5.
Oh, that's easy. Give me
hit that under. Also, I think a good
who made that?
That's the sports book, Sudi. It's FanDuel. Not sponsored.
They like giving away money.
200.
They really do. Also
230 what?
236.5.
I'm gonna check how many times he's done that this year.
No, watch how Kyle Shanahan just.
He's done it a bunch of times this year, actually.
Jimmy G just comes out throwing the first 15.
Yeah.
Just to hit that over, Kyle Shanahan's gonna laugh in our faces.
Yeah. I think also goodness. Packers, also an interception. I think would be great. If they're pressuring him, shutting down the run, it'll lead to some errant throws. Yeah. And Packers defense has got lots of takeaways this season. So. I think basically just bet the Packers.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's hard to bet on Jimmy G not making a couple mistakes in this game, which is why it's hard to bet on the Niners for me. Which is why I think they'll win by double digits even. Even if it's a close game and it's 2017, they get a touchdown in the last second, the Packers pull away.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not necessarily saying it's going to be a blowout. I don't think that by any stretch, but I don't trust Jimmy G. much like I said, I don't trust Matthew Stafford last week. I trust Jimmy G even less. So obviously we'll have to see.
That's
yeah,
saying
definitely.
something.
Definitely I trust him less than Stafford because Matthew Stafford has the big playability to offset it. Jimmy G doesn't, so I don't really see the upside here unless you get other players involved and win the game in other ways. The Niners have no second, they have no, let's just put the ball in the hands of our quarterback. That hasn't really worked for them much. Even when they made a Super Bowl, that didn't really work for them much. So that's not really their plan.
Matthew Stafford brings a little
That's
bit
true
of
too.
Detroit everywhere he goes.
Right. So that's Stafford with the Rams. That's a different discussion. But he's pretty much been he's the same up and down. Like he's been with the Lions. He just has a better team, right?
You can take
Garoppolo. It's different because with Garoppolo, he was never really up. He's always been a mediocre quarterback that can't make big plays, but makes the easy throws. That's really what it is.
You can take the Stafford out of the Lions, but you can't take the Lions out of Stafford.
That's a good one.
Wherever he goes.
Wherever he goes. He'll always be a Detroiter, if that's a big Detroiter. All right. Anyway, thank you for joining us for this Packers-Niners preview. Maybe we'll get an upset. We'll see. As I mentioned, 7 of the 8 teams are very familiar faces. So obviously, we'll have to see how this goes. And these are 2 storied franchises. The Packers and Niners have 4 and 5 Super Bowls, respectively. So I don't think any other matchup this weekend has more combined Super Bowls between the 2 teams. Probably that's unlikely. Yeah. So this is going to be intriguing. Thank you for joining us. Remember to subscribe to our channel again on YouTube, and of course, subscribe our podcast on Spotify and Apple, and follow us, and have a wonderful day.